Welcome back. This is the Grinning Goats Castle at Murder at Castle Nathria card review stream podcast VOD. This is Adwicta.
This is Merps. We've been going all night, and now
All
this is
night.
our
Mm-hmm.
48
It's
thousand
this is
of the review.
this is actually hour 24. Honestly, this is pretty much 24 hours after we started the recording. And if you're like, what the hell happened? I've been listening to the whole thing, and it's only been like 3 or 4 hours. I don't know how long it's been. It's because Merps's power went out right after the neutrals at a good cutoff point, but it didn't get on until like 1 or 2 a.m. or something, and so we didn't continue. So we are now on Monday night doing this recording. So if you're wondering why things are late, that's also why things are late. Now you can listen to us when you are already playing with the cards and tell us how wrong we are live.
Yep. All right. So we got Demon Hunter first. I think a lot of people remember the ups and lows. For Demon Hunter, there have been metas in which Demon Hunters have been crazy good because they have crazy cards. And remember, Expendable Performers, Cycle of Hatred, Ancient Voidhound, those cards are coming back. What are the new cards that are coming in for Demon Hunter? Are they just as strong? Let's see.
Let's see. So the first card we're going to talk about is the strongest non-legendary card at Demon Hunter. We're going to do all these commons first, then rares, then epics, then legendaries. Not how we did the neutrals. Just because we've been having some trouble finding each card, and it makes sense from the offering rate standpoint. You can see the common ones a lot more common until they nerf them. So the best card in the Demon Hunter set is Magnifying Glaive. This is A+, A+ card. That's how amazing this card is. And it is a 3-mana 2/2. After your hero attacks, draw until you have 3 cards. So if you're doing this right and you're emptying out your hand, which will be a little hard in the new meta, but it'll definitely be possible, you will end up having 3 mana for 6 draws and 4 damage.
It's pretty easy, I think, to get a good number of draws from this. And if you also look at the other cards that Demon Hunter got, and if you look at the way that I think they kind of have to play in this meta, and I understand, Skullman's is in, Darkmoon Fair is in, so, I talk about Infuse, Corrupt, all of this stuff. I think Demon Hunters are one of those classes that has to push a little bit. If you look at the other cards that are coming in, you're like, oh, wait, they are going to empty their hand, or at least play faster, as in play their cards more quickly than basically any of the other classes. This card was good, and I think it'll be a really good fit for the meta. And I think some people, because I've seen the analysis from it, I think some people are like, well, it's not an on-curve play. And yeah, it is definitely not an on-curve play. It's just so strong. And where it really shines is like the second charge, right? Because, the first charge, you probably won't get like super value from it. But the second charge, man, I think you can pretty easily, set it up. If you do an initial setup, and then the second charge, you can draw like 2 cards, right? So even if you draw like 1 to 2 cards at the beginning, and then you just draw 2 cards, right? You still have 1 card in your hand, because you could dump and then you draw, right? Draw last, lol. You have gotten an insane amount of value, right? It's 3 mana for split 4 damage, and you are able to draw like 3+ cards, a little bit more than 3 cards. That's really freaking good.
You also don't have to use this in second turn. You can use this the 3rd or 4th turn. You just can't use your face until then if you want the cards, which, you probably should at that point, depending on how the game is going. But this is not like, no one's forcing you to use the second charge immediately because you can't empty out your hand. You can, it'll help you, but like I I would just hold on for another turn and use up another 10 mana. The fact that the games go on for so long, like people are going to say, like that means you already have a lot of cards. Well, that's true, but it also allows this card to actually be good because you need to be at like 10 mana for this card to be at its best. Because you need to empty out your hand after you play this card so that you can use the second charge. So the fact that the meta goes on for a while actually works to this card's advantage as well as hurting it, right? So it's not a one-way street. It's not like, oh, we have so many cards, who needs more cards? It's also, hey, this card is structured in a way, so you do need to hit the later mana turns for this to be really good.
Yep. And people in the chat are making a good point as well. I mean, it's something that I think whenever some people look at this card, they're like, oh, like, man, the first charge is going to be not great. You also just don't have to use the first charge immediately. Like, how many times do you perhaps have 3 mana at the end of the turn? Sure, you could play like an inefficient 2-drop or something, but how much power does that really add to the board? You have, like, let's say 3 cards left in your hand. If you play this, just play it. Don't swing, right?
It also adds power to the board, right? It's tempo. It's 4 damage of tempo. Power. It's not like a non-tempo play.
Right. And then you, on the next turn, play, because then on the next turn you'll have 4 cards total, right? And you probably will be able to play like 2 cards. I think that's fair to say, right? Just play 2 cards. And then afterwards, you swing with it. It's fantastic. Like, this is one of those cards that I see being meta specifically very good, but also just generally very good for Demon Hunters. So A+, I like this a lot.
Is really good. S is cards that should not exist, especially like in common, like even as a class card. S is like Caverns. A+ is super good. Like, you're going to see this a lot with this set where, I mean, we just did the neutral analysis. There were some OP cards, but overall, it wasn't like a super strong set. It's a little bit polarized. We usually see a lot more B-tier cards in the modern sets than we do in this set. This set had a lot of C-tier cards for a modern set. But it more than makes up for it in the class cards. Some of these classes are totally ridiculous. And even the bad ones, and we're going to... you've heard Demon Hunter cards in this set suck, right? You've heard it everywhere. But even in the bad classes, you have like a A+ tier common card. If this were, I don't know, a year ago, we would look at this and say, oh my god, Demon Hunter OP. Like, yeah, sure, they're going to get a bunch of useless cards, but oh my god, this one card will just carry Demon Hunters. And this card is so good that it will shape Demon Hunter decks everywhere. Like, if it didn't exist, maybe Demon Hunters go a little slower. But you know what? It exists. And so now Demon Hunters are going to be a turn, 2 turns, 3 turns ahead of all the other classes. Because you're just going to have to draft like that. Because this card is going to force you to draft like that. Because this card is so good. Okay.
I think we said enough about this one.
Magnifying Glass. Next up, another common card is Bibliomite. Bibliomite is a B tier card, so now we're at just the good card in your deck, nothing special. 2 mana 4/4. Battlecry. Choose a card in your hand and shuffle it into your deck. So remember how 2 mana 4/3 in Warlock made you discard a random card? Well, this one is a 2 mana 4/4 now, and you are not discarding a random card. You are picking a card in your hand to shuffle back into your deck. So
yeah, I think, because I've read the analyses for this, and I think some people are like, oh, I don't know exactly if it's worth it.
What? This
Which
2 mana
I'm
4/4.
so surprised at. So, okay, I think another way to look at it, and I think one way that really helped me to look at it is, at the time you play this, you are basically selecting, I am choosing a card from my hand to turn into a 0 mana +1/+2 buff, or 0 mana +2/+1 buff, like compared to like a 3/2 or like
I would say like a +1/+1 buff. Because the fair value of a normal 2-drop, it's a 3/3, even though they're not going to get put a 2 mana 3.
They're not going to put the stats, but there's an effect.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I think that's fine. you're basically choosing to turn a card
Yes.
that you can choose.
Yeah, and the good part is that you can choose. If this were just
Right.
discard a card, this would not be a B tier card at all. This would be
No,
I don't even think this would be a C tier card. This would be like it's like the card was bad, right? But because you can choose your Ysera if this is actually a 2-drop, right? And that's game winning to not have Ysera in your hand on turn 3. I guess is the next turn you can actually use anything. That is hugely game winning. Like, and that's what you can do. So you're thinking like, oh, I'm losing a card, but oftentimes you're not losing a card, or you're losing a card like 6 turns down the road. Okay. And yeah, I'm reading chat right now. Someone makes a really good point. Bill Nye the Pie Guy, who says you can also throw away cards that are blocking outcasts. If the Ysera is blocking an outcast or something, like you can actually solve your problems with it. So it may even be somewhat of a positive in Demon Hunter specifically. That's a good point. All right. Next up, we are going to finally start talking about what you have probably heard some about, and that is the key mechanic for Demon Hunter in this expansion. It is relics. Relics work like this. There are 3 relics, just 3. They each do a thing, and they're like Jade. Whenever they do a thing, they stack something. Like when they get improved in the future, it gets more powerful when you play it. So Jades, if you remember from way back when, I think it was Mean Streets of Gadgetzan. I actually forget specifically. But it's like the first one summons a 1/1, then the next one summons a 2/2, then the next one's a 3/3, the next one's a 4/4. So when you play one relic, the next relic you play does a boosted version of it, and the relic afterwards that you play does another does a boosted version of that. So they're all different, but the card itself kind of upgrades itself each time you had based on how many relics you played in the past. That's obviously great if you can play a bajillion relics, but much like Jade from back in the day, the mechanic just falls short in Arena because you're not going to be offered endless relics, and they're pretty bad in and of itself. At least with Jade, it's always tied to another effect. With these relics, this is the whole effect. It's just the relic that you're casting. So it's like doubly as reliant on this synergy as Jade, and it kind of doesn't come together. Like we run the numbers, and I think to no one's surprise, it's bad. So here's the first card. The common one is Relic of Extinction. 2 mana, spell, common spell. It says deal 1 damage to a random enemy minion twice. Improve your future relics. That's 2 mana, 2 random damage to a minion. That is not good. Now, what happens if it's improved? If you've used a relic before this, Relic of Extinction becomes 2 mana, deal 2 damage to a random enemy twice. Now it's 2 mana to deal 4 damage to a random enemy, which is like a real card. It's not even a good card, it's just a real card. That's how much they need you to play relics to boost it up. And in Arena, even if you try to draft a relic deck, you're not going to have enough relics to make this really like be good and be worth it. So we rated this one at F+. 2 mana, 2 damage is not totally unplayable, but it's close. And sometimes you get 2 mana, 4 damage randomly.
All right. I don't have anything more to say about it. This whole relic thing, this is kind of the problem with these internal systems in Arena, right? Like, you see stuff that works if all of the cards are independently good. If the cards themselves are not independently good, man, it's tough to get going. Like, if you guys remember, Jade Druid. Man, I tried so hard to get that to work. But it's something that only works with each other, right? Like, relics buff other relics. By themselves, they're not that good. It's kind of like Jade Druids, and
it's
man,
doubly
I tried
Jade
so
Druids.
hard.
Like the Jades and Jade Druids do other stuff except one.
Yes. But yeah, you need the cards to be independently good, and if they work with each other, that's fantastic.
Yep. You don't need them to be even independently good. You just need them to be independently okay. And these are not. These are independently trash.
Yeah.
All right. let's look at our first rare card, which we'll just get this out of the way. Let's just do another relic first. So this is the rare relic. So there's a common relic, a rare relic, and an epic relic. That's another problem with relics, by the way. They're not all common. So you're not even going to get offered them. So the rare relic is Relic of the Phantasms. It is 3 mana. This one's also a F+. It is summon 2/1/1 spirits, improve your future relics. 3 mana for 2/1/1s is totally trash. 3 mana for 2/2/2s is kind of normal. You really shouldn't have other relics to play, but it's F+ because sometimes you do, or you might have generated it, and then it's potentially okay. It's not a near do nothing card, which F tier cards generally are. Okay, moving on from Relic of the Phantasms. We're just gonna skip around right now and do the epic relic as well, just so you guys see. The epic relic, and we're gonna jump back to rares. The epic relic is a 5 mana card called Relic of Dimensions. It says draw 2 cards and reduce their cost by 1. Improve your future relics. Now, this one is not absolutely terrible. It's actually a D+, because it's kind of like a worse Arcane Intellect by itself. It's 5 mana, you're drawing 2 cards, but each of them, you're banking 1 mana in each of those cards. So yeah, you don't want to delay your mana, but it's not the end of the world. And so this is the one where it's an epic, and I can see it a lot, but you may end up actually taking just for itself. And that may end up boosting your other relics. Maybe, no, it won't. But just throwing it out there, this is not a dead card.
Alright, yeah.
Okay. And if you're wondering how this one gets boosted, it does not draw you more cards, it reduces their cost more. So this one's getting boosted is the worst out of all of them in terms of getting boosted. Which is why its base is the strongest. Makes sense. Okay, so now I did all that just because we're now going back to rares, and it's helpful to know what all the relics are before we look at this rare card, which is the first location. This is a terrible card actually to introduce the first location. So you know what? We're going to save all the location discussion for the next location. Just know that this is trash. It is called Relic Vault. It deals with relics. It's 3 mana. The next relic you play this turn cast twice. It is an F tier card because you shouldn't have relics to synergize with this. And it does literally nothing if you don't have relics to synergize with it. We're gonna just skip over this one. It's obvious trash. We don't need to talk about it. Okay. Now let's talk about some real cards that the Demon Hunter has. We just went through 5 cards that are basically not cards, by the way. So there's going to be a lot of bad dilution happening with Demon Hunters, which is good because, like we talked about before, Demon Hunters are getting a lot of really good cards coming back, right? Performers, I'm blanking on the other ones, but they're all really bad and you hate them. Okay, this one is a rare card, the last rare card for Demon Hunters, and it is C tier. It is okay, it is draftable. Not going to be as good as an average card in your deck, but not total trash either. It is a 0 mana card called Dispose of Evidence. Give your hero +3 attack this turn. Choose a card in your hand to shuffle into your deck. So think backstab, but you discard something, you take some face damage, you deal 1 extra damage.
Alright. This is... I don't know, man. Alright. First of all, I'm just thinking ahead for all of the Hunter cards, and it's just kind of like super surprising that I see all of these, and I'm just like, what is going on? I guess they're just afraid of Demon Hunters at this point, right? Like they're afraid of sort of like what they can get away with, and the constructed Demon Hunter architect where they can just sort of play a billion cards, get a billion damage, and then combo all of that.
I think choosing the card to shuffle into your deck is insanely strong in Constructed.
Yeah,
because
I think so.
It's like tradable almost, but it's more like it changes the order of your hand. It does stuff. In Arena, it's less impressive, but this card is not bad. I see people in chat that like think it's bad. I think you originally had it lower than this until I was like, "Come on, think about it. Think about it on curve. Think about it on whatever." Like, it's still 3 extra tempo. Like, I don't care what you're doing to get the tempo, you are still getting 3 extra tempo for nothing. I mean, for 2 cards, but for nothing. For no tempo given away, you are getting 3 extra tempo at any time you want. And again, the card you're discarding is probably not one you'd play anytime soon. Or it's in the late game and it's not one that has a significant impact. Or in the late game, you could just not play this card, right? Until you either empty out your hand or just never play this card and leave it as a dead card.
This is one that you had to talk me into, which is kind of rare for cards like this, for you to talk me into it. So I am tentatively on board right now. I will say I'm tentatively on board. It's just kind of a shame because this card gets better the stronger the Demon Hunter package is, right? And right now I'm just like, oh man, everything seems fairly blah.
Well, I'm reading chat right now. This is a very chat-centric card review. But someone in chat said, this is how you throw away your relics. So,
you're drafting relics in the first place, I guess?
I mean, look, sometimes it's your best option. It's an F+. The relics are F+. They're not F. Sometimes you get 2 Fs and an F+, and you just take the F+. But yeah, like, you could have bad cards. We talked about this before, too. You could have bad cards in your set, like in your deck. This is not a high-power meta outside of the current set. So, yeah, it's not the end of the world if you throw away some bad cards. Alright. Dispose of evidence, C tier. Like, just basically don't think of this as a non-card. You know, like, it's going to be like Yeti level, a little above Yeti. That's what C tier is. Alright. Moving on to the other remaining epic card. This one is it's called Sinful Brand. It is 1 mana. It is F tier. Don't draft this. It says branded enemy minion. Whenever it takes damage, deal 2 damage to the enemy hero. I don't think we have to explain why this is terrible.
Yep.
Alright, next one. Let's go with Artificer Zymox. Stay with us here, because this card is a relic card, and this card is bustedly broken. We just went over how bad relics are. You guys still remember how bad the relics are, right? It's like 2 mana, deal 2 damage to a random enemy minion. 3 mana, summon 2 1/1s. 5 mana, draw 2 cards and reduce their cost by 1 each. They're bad cards. Well, this card is what makes relics work in constructed, I assume, if relics are to work. But in Arena, you have to have this card first. So you can have a relic deck, I think, if you have this card in your deck. You draft it super early or something. And this is Artificer Zymox. It is a S tier card. There are a few S tier cards in this set. Not as much as Sunken City with all the freaking Colossals. But there are a few. And most of them are legendaries, thankfully. And what we normally say about S tier cards is that for a class legendary, they're okay. Like, it's okay to exist. But it still never feels good to play against it. Anyway, 8 mana, 8/8. Battle Cry. Discover and cast a relic. Infuse 5. Cast all 3 instead. Now, the relics cast in order, and each one buffs the one afterwards. So you're not casting 3 rank 1 relics. You're casting 1 rank 1 relic, 1 rank 2 relic, and 1 rank 3 relic. And that's on top of an 8 mana, 8/8 body.
This is really good. I mean, this is sort of exactly what you want out of a big card, right? Having initiative and doing multiple things. And if you remember our discussion from yesterday, I am buying stock in Infuse. Like, Infuse is just sort of going to work. And, you know, you're going to try to play more aggressively as a Demon Hunter than other classes. Your stuff will die. It'll just kind of happen. And if you get all of the relics to go off, that's really freaking good. It's just like a ton of value for 8 mana. So This is how you can go from individually those cards suck, because remember they take a card, to all together, because you are playing, you know, like this card and proccing like 3 bad cards. It just ends up being supremely good.
Mm-hmm. So thank God relics suck in Arena. Or else this card is going to be better than Colossus's. Okay. Artificer Zymox. The other legendary is Karexis the Voracious. It is a 4 mana 7/7. Battle Cry, discard your hand. Death Rattle, draw 3 cards. So when you see that, you may think, well, what if I discard nothing and then I draw 3 cards? Yes. The answer is yes. This card is very good for that. But it's just a 4 mana 7/7. It's an A tier card, right? It's super good. It's not brokenly good. And it's not brokenly good because it's just a 4 mana 7/7. Even if it draws you an extra card or 2 on delay. Like 4 mana 7/7s that you don't play on curve are nothing. They are nothing. This card is playable on curve. Because if you think about it, would you play a 4 mana 7/7 that discards a card? Yeah. You would. You definitely would. That's a good card. So if you have 4 cards in your hand when it comes to turn 4 and you play Zyxis, you play this guy and you discard your other 3 cards, and then later you get your 3 cards back. You're not discarding anything. If you have 5 cards and Karexis is one of them, you discard 4 cards and then you draw 3 back later on. That's only net -1 card. They're both options. And they're both not bad options. Now, you do suffer some inefficiencies, of course, because you're discarding your whole hand. So if this one doesn't die the next turn, which it probably won't because it's turn 4, no one's freaking killing it, and you're not going to be able to kill it off on anything, you're kind of just bound to whatever cards you top deck. So there is a negative to it. I do not recommend doing this if you have... Like, normally, 4 mana, 7/7, discard 2 cards is even potentially playable. But here, even discard 1 card is dangerous to play. But if you do only have 4 cards in your hand on turn 4, so you play a 1-drop on 1, a 2-drop on 2, a 3-drop on 3, and this is your 4-drop, do it. You're not actually losing any cards. You're just getting inefficiency on the next turn, which you have more than made up for by playing a 4 mana 7/7.
Right. Inefficiency on the next turn, well, you had efficiency, more efficiency by playing a 4 mana 7/7, right? So yes, it is not perfect, but I do agree that I think the upside to this card and the benefits that you get, and the fact that it's controllable, right? Like you control when you play it, that's worth a lot. So yeah, I like this. This is one I thought about, and I'm like, yeah, okay, A. Because I also tended to kind of think about like the downsides immediately. I was like, no, this is just a good solid card.
Yeah, like they designed it well for like normal for the value. I'm sure it can get insane value in synergies, right? You synergize with a Magnifying Glaive, but it doesn't need to. It doesn't need the synergies for it to be really good. All right, that's it for Demon Hunter. I don't think there's that much to talk about. Outside of the legendaries, you're really just looking at Magnifying Glaive. Like, Bibliomite is fine. It's a B tier card. We like Bibliomite, but that's not a game-changing card. It's a 2-mana tempo card, like, in a non-tempo meta. But you can see what Demon Hunters are trying to do, right? Like, all the playable cards, the very few playable cards, like Bibliomite, like Magnifying Glaive, like Dispose of Evidence. Those are your 3 actually draftable and playable Demon Hunter new cards. And they're all trying to get rid of cards in your hand very quickly. So you have the other package, the Relic package, which kind of builds up to something later on, but that's not really part of the arena. So you're just left with this package of Demon Hunter cards that kind of want your whole deck to just go. And together, because they do have an offering rate increase, and 2 of them are common, you're going to be able to go. We're not going to say this about, I think, any other class, maybe one other class, but this is a meta that's all about delay, and Demon Hunters in this meta is all about go. So, I don't know how this is going to work out for Demon Hunter, and there is a lot of dilution going on here, but they do have some very powerful, flexible, for all playstyles kind of cards coming back in. And they do have this Magnifying Glaive, which is a bomb in the arena. To anchor this kind of playstyle, and they are going to be one of the few classes, or if not the only class, you're going to see this kind of playstyle from in the new meta. So they could end up being a good counter meta class to play, even though all the new cards suck, is what people keep saying. And that's not true. It's not all the new cards suck, it's just a lot of the new cards suck.
Yeah. No, I think I agree with you. I think people are looking at Demon Hunter and they're like, all the cards suck, which is not true. I think some are better than you guys think they are. Like, not good, but like serviceable. Um, and Demon Hunters could surprise people by being one of the faster classes. Now, all of this is dependent on offering rates, right? Like,
Yeah.
I cannot say from the onset what it's going to be, and I definitely cannot say after a few weeks, after the adjustments, what it's going to be. But I think there's a possibility there.
Mm-hmm. All right. That's it for Demon Hunter. We will. You want to give shoutouts, or let's just give them the next one. This one's
Next one. All
next
right.
one. Let's go. Until what's the next one? Druid. Until Druid. This is Adwicta.
This is Merp. See you guys.